if you're stressed the fuck out, if you've got 9 million things on your plate and every day is just a shit show, you are not ready for a cut. Like, you're not ready to lose weight. You're not ready for that next diet. Let's build you a lifestyle so you can stop cutting for every event that's coming. Let's build you a lifestyle that's sustainable, where you're eating more food than you ever thought possible.
Hello, and welcome back to 100% Real with Ruby. So here I got Garret. Now, Garret primarily works with mums, and you know the story of I need to take care of this, I need to worry about that. Oh, but I'm so my body. Oh wait, no, I have to do this for the kids. I don't have time to worry about my cooking. I'm cooking for the kids. I'm cooking for the husband. I don't have time for myself. Like, these things that Garret and I hear on a consistent basis and see on a consistent basis. And then we were talking about the weather, because he's from Arizona and I'm from Australia, and our weathers are pretty extreme on both ends. And it got me into thinking it's how people usually do their diets. Like, there is no middle ground. People go from one extreme to the other extreme. And as soon as you're in the messy middle and you're starting to see progress, you put yourself back into the environment that wasn't fostering you in the first place, or you might just have a lapse. There's a difference between a lapse and a relapse, which Garret will go into, but you have a little lapse in time. You go back to your old habits because you're in this environment, you're on a holiday. But then when you put yourself back into the journey of trying to make yourself better again and going back to your usual routine, it kind of, it's just like, wait, what was going on? So I guess we're going to touch on a lot of, I guess, the biggest struggles and bottlenecks you see with the ladies that you coach, and especially touching into the issue of not putting themselves first and stopping to realize what it is that they are doing to themselves.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, so I actually just pulled up her most recent check-in. So before we started recording, we were kind of, we jumped in and started talking about is, I primarily work with females, and I do handle a handful of moms and working with them. And one of the biggest things when I work with moms is we focus on stress management, working on boundaries, finding and, making sure to prioritize quality sleep and movement daily. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the gym, right? So majority of my female clients, especially my moms, they only train 3 days a week. We strength train, we block it out, and we strength train 3 days a week. But other than that, what I look for is more so outdoor movement, just getting outside, going for walks, managing stress as much as possible. And so kind of what we were talking about is, life is going to throw us some curveballs. And for this specific client that I'm going to kind of speak on is, we've been working together for about between 8 and 12 weeks. And we've had, slowly but surely, we've started to create better and better habits and better boundaries, better communication. She's saying that, the communication between her and her husband is better than ever. As far as like what she needs, where she needs help, rather than trying to handle it all herself. She is noticing that she's sleeping better. She's noticing that she's digesting food better. She's become more aware of appropriate hunger cues. And then all of a sudden last week, she went on vacation. She was out at the lakes with family and friends and other things. And, she obviously kind of slipped up, probably had some negative body image issues as far as, coming out of that and moving back into routine. And then all of a sudden feeling all this shame. And she's like, I just want to give up. And it's like, look, life is going to continue to happen no matter what. But 1 week out of 52 weeks in a year isn't a big deal. It's just starting to continue to build those habits to make them a lifestyle. So that way, in 5 years, you're in a completely different spot than you are today, not looking at it as 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Start thinking it as 24 months. Where are we going to be in 24 months, not 24 weeks? Where are we going to be in 36 months? What does 3 years look like as far as your progress and consistency? Because all of a sudden, if you look at 36 months, that's 52, 160 weeks. 1 week out of 160, that's a really small percentage if you're having a bad week or a bad couple days. And if you start to look at it that as 3 years and you start to build those lifestyle habits over time and put consistency on top of it, you then can transfer that to what does your life look like in now, like I said, kind of going back is what does your life look like in 10 years? What does your life look like in 20 years? And then in especially this situation where her son just turned, um, one like today. What does his health and fitness look like in a decade as a teenager when mom and dad have both taken control of their health and fitness at that 1 year mark, and they're starting to shift and change those habits? It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to fuck up. It's not a matter of if you're going to fuck up. It's just simply a matter of when.
And I guess it's also having that's the important part of also having, what am I going to do when I fuck up? It's if this happens, then this. And this is something I really want you to go down the path of, is if you're not putting yourself first, you're actually being selfish to your kids, to your husband, because you're not being a better person for them. And if you're continuing to lose your temper, be moody, feel lethargic, not keep up with your kids, because all you're doing is just letting off the steam to do this, that, and the other, but not actually putting yourself first, how is that going to impact their lives? And motivation doesn't really exist, nor does willpower. Like, you need to have that drive. And people are quick to say, my kids come first. Okay, cool. Then how is putting yourself first and realizing that when you focus on your sleep, your appetite, like your digestion, the food that you put into your body, what you do outside of the gym to make you a more healthier and fit and capable person, how is that going to then transfer into your life to make it truly better? Because you are far more capable than you realize, and that's pretty impossible if you are not putting yourself first. So how important is it for women to actually put themselves first and also make the link to how it makes them better in all these other aspects of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it great, is exactly that, is what I'm starting to find with a lot of these moms. And one of my other moms is a gal I went to high school with, and she hired me a while back, and we've been working with her now for 4 months. We've seen 17 pounds of uh, weight loss. And again, we completely pulled her caffeine. She's now going on 4 months without caffeine, other than she has a cup of coffee once in a while. Like she says, she has typically one a week, and purely for the enjoyment of a cup of coffee. Like, she genuinely enjoys the taste of coffee. We've completely cut it out. She has a cup of coffee per day, or per week. And she reports back with the following: she consistently sleeps 7 to 8 hours uninterrupted with no waking, other than if her kids interrupt her sleep. She has more energy than ever before, more ability to focus, stress management. And this is someone who handles she is a social worker, so she handles a massive caseload. Summers are their busiest times of the year, And she also had to, the first 8 weeks we were working together, her husband was completely out of town. So she's used to being a 2-parent household, shifted to a 1-parent household, and managed to lose a majority of her initial fat loss in probably water and inflammation weight during those 8 weeks by executing on very, very simple techniques, such as getting outside and getting a daily 45-minute walk. She trains anywhere between 2 and 3 days a week. Sometimes it does fall to 2 days a week, but we provide quality strength programming, and she, executes 2 to 3 days per week. She's feeling stronger than she's ever felt, less achy. And as she's doing so, she's also managed to improve like overall digestive health. She says, she reports back, she consistently goes once per day. Her periods have improved. She, has much better, more consistent, um, less intense periods as well.
So it's funny for all of you listening out there. He never mentioned once focusing on fat loss. He never mentioned once focusing on the scale. He never mentioned that. He threw a random number out there saying, oh, by the way, she lost this. But it was never a focus, because it's never really what we need to like primarily knuckle down on, because you're not going to lose those pounds. You're not going to lose those kilos if you're not addressing the root cause, if you're not addressing the environment and the things that have got you to where you are and uncomfortable with. Like caffeine. The reason he mentions this so often is because there are so many women out there running on adrenaline, running on hardly any food. Like, yeah, there are actually some people out there who hardly eat, but they're running on so much adrenaline, which I'm going to get you into. They're running on so much of this adrenaline that their body isn't actually able to have a healthy metabolism, to actually demand the food, which is when their appetites get screwed up, which is when their actual periods will get screwed up, and then they'll have horrible PMS, or they'll skip periods, or they won't have a period at all. They'll get moody, they won't have energy throughout the day. And all of this stuff is impacting on their body fat percentage, because your body isn't going to be able to build the muscle that you want, to lose the fat that you want to lose, if you're not actually giving it the micronutrients it needs as well, which Garret will go into, because you can be in a calorie deficit, you can be hardly eating, but you're not realizing that is also a micronutrient deficit, and you need those nutrients to assist your metabolism, to assist your health, to assist all the things that will create a better human in yourself. And women don't realize, do they, that how good a good night's sleep feels until they've had one, how good life can be until they've experienced it, how they really feel once they're eating good food consistently. Like, they expect 1 week of doing the right things to make them feel instantly better. Like, yeah, you might start to get some regular poops here and there, but it's not going to take 1 week to undo all of that stuff, because you might lapse a little, but then get back on track. Like, women take on a lot, and this is why it is so important to knuckle down on stress and building resilience. But how is it that we can get women to start seeing it this way? Because we're not someone that can just show them a magic ball and be like, hey, look, this is how your life's going to be if you actually do these things and trust me.
I think the biggest thing is, as my coaching business has grown and as I've continued to become more educated, is that helps, is providing the educational background of like it's not just eat more, it's like, hey, here's why this issue is coming up, this is why this issue is coming up for you, this is why this issue is coming up, and knowing the whys, right? Knowing the biochemistry and the physiology of like, why are these things coming up, so then we can turn around and bring that information to them so they feel more confident and comfortable with their decision to eat more food. Because I think one of the biggest things that I see now, whether it be males or females, it's not just females, is a lot of males do it as well, as they chronically undereat, and they honestly don't even realize that they're doing it. It's not because like I honestly would say it's more of like almost a 50-50 split. I've done a lot of recent like polls on Instagram, where, you know, I'll poll people, and there's a lot of people who don't chronically diet. They're not chronically trying to lose weight. And yet they, when you actually get down to the nitty gritty, you track their food intake, they eat almost nothing. You know, I made a post just the other day kind of calling out both men and women. I made two different ones, and my experience and variation, and how I listed it was as follows: is the typical female morning. Wake up, grab a caramel macchiato at Starbucks on the way out the door, probably grabbed a granola bar that's been sitting in their cupboard for 6 months. And they, you know, don't grab the granola bar, they run out the door, and then they're on a diet, right? You know, so they have a dry salad with 2 ounces of cruddy chicken from some restaurant, and their dressings on the side because health. And, you know, it's literally a big bowl of greens and 2 ounces of chicken. And then they get to dinner time, and it's like one of two things. They either go home, they pop a bag of popcorn in the microwave, or they have a pint of Ben and Jerry's. And then or it's Tuesday night and it's Taco Tuesdays, and the girls want to go out for chips and margaritas and queso, and you have one of two things happen on those nights. You're chronically underfed, you're not getting enough nutrients, much less protein is just nowhere to be found in that day at all, which doesn't help with muscle retention or any of that. Or we massively overeat of calories that are not nutrient dense and not feeding our body's processes, so it can't properly function. So it's not getting, like Ruby mentioned, is it's not getting those micronutrients that it needs. It's not getting the protein it needs to sustain proper function of anything. And then you wake up the next morning and you feel like you need to have two caramel macchiatos with extra shots in it, and away we go. And you wonder why you have a migraine.
How important is it exactly? And what is it like? How, if you go through the funnel, like we're putting into the top of the funnel the protein and the micronutrients, how exactly does this filter through to the end result that people want so that they can actually start doing this? Like the effects of under eating micronutrients, the effects of not eating enough protein, because day in, day out, I don't see people actually putting enough emphasis on protein. So yeah, there are people that saying eat your fucking vegetables, and here I am saying eat your fucking protein. Like it's not as pushed out into the world as vegetables are, and people don't actually realize the quality of food matters. Like it actually matters that you get in these vitamins. But we all know, we do, the clients maybe not as much, but we know that you are not what you eat but what you absorb. And if your gut health isn't poor, like isn't good, you can't absorb these nutrients either. So you're going to be in a micronutrient deficit and a protein deficit, both if you have poor gut health, which we're going to go into the stress thing. How exactly is stress holding people back? How exactly can having a micronutrient deficiency, like not eating enough protein, being in a high stressed environment, like how exactly does stress lead to all of these negative things that stop women from getting results, no matter how much they try to lose weight, no matter how much they try to even cut their food, improve their diet? Like, how is this stress holding them back?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great topic to cover. Stress resilience is huge. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think one of the best, you can almost look at like stress as like a 5-gallon bucket. And I'm pretty sure this is from Luke, our mutual mentor, and how we know one another is, you know, you look at stress as a 5-gallon bucket, right? So you've got everything from especially as a mom. You've got everything from kids and kids activities to cooking the meals for the house to managing to clean the house, man, all these things, plus taking care of yourself. And that bucket gets pretty full pretty fast, right? And if all of a sudden you're on your 10th attempt at dieting in the last 36 months, and you're you see all these Instagram models that you want to look like and emulate, and they're training 6 days a week and they're doing this, and that's got to be how I got to get there, right? Is I got to train 6 days a week. I've got to eat 1,200 calories, which is, for whatever reason, this magical numerical number that came out of the sky, that all females are supposed to eat. When in all reality, majority of my female clients, especially my athletes, the girls who really take training seriously, majority of my girls eat more than my men. Pound for pound, they eat more than my men do. These girls, I've had girls upwards of 3,200 calories at some points to fuel the performance of what I'm looking for, while managing to maintain what's going on internally, making sure that their bodies are functioning optimally. But when we kind of circle back and go back to that stress, is at the end of the day, dieting is a stress, so is working out. And so what we need to look at, and why majority of, especially either busy professionals or busy professionals who are moms as well, that's why they only train 3 days a week. And our primary focus with them, while we work on fixing their stress management, making sure their sleep is quality, getting their digestion in check, is we focus on only strength training, proper rest periods in between, to mitigate as much stress as possible. Because oftentimes a lot of moms will move towards things like, here in the States, we have Orange Theory Fitness. We also have F45 boot camps. Is a lot of busy moms will be more attracted to those things because it's quick, it's easy, it's get in, get out, and it's a lot of huffy puffy stuff, right? Well, that's all great and fine for about 4 to 6 weeks. But then what's happening is they're training with that same stimulus over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And it's not going to happen because it's the same stimulus over and over. And what's going on internally is they're creating a bunch of oxidative stress, as well as a bunch of stress that's going to have an impact on liver, kidneys, and they're all of a sudden becoming lethargic, even more so than they already were, because they're not eating enough to support the training, 6 days a week. They're not getting proper rest because, again, they're not prioritizing themselves. And before we know it, they have lost weight, but look worse, because all of a sudden they're carrying around, more often than not, a bunch of inflammation from the style of training that they're using, because it's not tailored to what they actually need. And that's to chill the fuck out, get stronger, eat enough food consistently. It's not all the time. When I, again, we kind of keep bringing up this word consistent, right? If I can get you to eat enough food 80 to 90% of your week, we're sitting pretty sweet. And why I provide a range is, if it's 1 week it's 60%, or 1 week it's 50, and then the next week it's 100. And it's gonna be variable, right? Because it's summer here. It's summer vacation. You're doing things. There are going to be weeks where you're off your game. But if you can prioritize even a few things during that week, like making sure you got enough protein, making sure that you went for a daily walk, you're going to be in a much better position that following week when you're back in your routine.
I love how you just literally emphasize the two things that are most important right here: protein and daily walk. like it is as simple as going for a walk. Walking is highly underrated. And this is where a lot of people fall short. They shoot themselves in the foot. And like I have this new analogy now. If one of the rooms in your house have a leaking ceiling, you don't demolish the whole house and say, fuck it, we need a new house. You seal the ceiling and then you move on with life because time's going to pass anyway and it's going to be a lot more costly and energetic to build a new house. And this, like, all these things can be well and good. We can be focusing on the right things, but then results aren't coming fast enough. That stupid scale that people need to just give the boot isn't moving down. All well and good. And then you start to fall into a negative cycle again. But then you start to self-deprecate, talk yourself down, and then you cycle down and down again without realizing, as Garret said, you're okay. So one week, you may not be as great, but it just starts from the next meal, the next day, not the next Monday, not, oh, I'm not made for this. This isn't working for me. No, it is. You just need to focus, like, stop having unrealistic expectations and setting expectations and standards so high that you can't hold up to them. Like, you need to bring it back to base level. Yeah, you're going to slip up. You are going to slip up. But when? And it's how you carry yourself after. And this, how, like, mindset is so important in this, because you need to start to realize that your brain, you want to be responsive, not reactive. And we react so fast and put ourselves down. And it's almost like, also when we were talking about the extremes, it's either this or it's the other end of the spectrum. Okay, everything's going well. Can we add this? Can we add this? Can I go to F45? Can I do this? Mate, we know you're a busy mom. We know that you know how to handle stress. We know that you've been like this for your whole life, but that's why you look the way that you do. That's why you are where you are now. That's why you're struggling the way that you're struggling now. Even though you may not see it, but you do not know what it's like to thrive consistently for a long period of time and exactly what that's going to do for you. We brought things back down to a simmering level. It's not boiling over the top. It's not spilling hot water everywhere and causing a disaster. We're back down to simmering. You don't need to add more and more. Stop trying to busy yourself and do more and more just because things aren't going fast enough. Why is it so important that women realize that this is the simmering level we need? Because we don't want those uncomfortable periods, crazy mood swings, disrupted sleep, bloating after every meal. Bloating. People complain about bloating. And it's the importance of all of this stress stuff that we're talking about. You can actually force intolerances to food because of this stress.
Yep.
Can you go into that? Because people just do not realize how important it is to put themselves first for all of these other reasons, and how it breeds into consistency, doing the things outside of just focusing on the scale, like a walk, like focusing on the nutrition, like what is the next best thing they can do? Because if you're only focusing on the scale and you're not looking at all these other things, you are going to lose weight but look worse, or you will just keep putting on body fat because your body isn't responding. You're increasing intolerances to different foods. You're just creating more whole body stress.
I think so. One of the biggest things that we can kind of take away from not managing stress properly is one of the first things that's going to be disrupted downstream from stress, right? So we got to kind of think about stress is like the top of the funnel, and everything else, stress overloads, it's going to start messing with that signaling going downstream. So one of the first things that happens when we are chronically overstressed, stressed on a day-to-day basis for these, XYZ reasons, and we're not doing anything to manage those stressors, is you can mess with like proper function in your body, and then down regulating stomach acid. So again, like everything has a consequence, and not managing stress is going to mess with internal things, which then causes lower stomach acid, which means you're not digesting food properly. You more than likely deal with extended fullness, bloating, sometimes gas. As you stated, one of the number one things I focus on, right, is okay, cool, protein, walks, stress management tactics like journaling, gratitude, meditation. Next up is one of the number one things, especially with my moms, especially like if they're going to work, is I tell them lunch is a non-negotiable. You eat lunch every day, and you eat lunch in a calm, relaxed state. You focus on your food, you chew your food, no phone, no reading, go sit outside if it's nice enough, and enjoy your meal. And that is it gets raving reviews with all my ladies all the time. When they actually make it a priority, when they actually sit down, they chew their food, they enjoy their meal, digestion improves, daily bowel movements improve, no more gas, no more bloating, no more irritation. Because if you get far enough down that rabbit hole of unmanaged stress, improper nutrition, is you can, exactly like Ruby said, is you can literally build an intolerance to your food that you're eating, especially if you're like a creature of habit like me, where I kind of latch onto something and I pretty much eat it every single day for 6, 7, 8 months, swapping out things here and there. But when it comes to like my breakfast, I'm a creature of habit. It's like, I find a recipe of whatever it is that fits within my goals, and I latch onto it and I just go with it for a long period of time until I just can't eat it anymore, more so mentally. But let's say that you are the same type of person and it's overnight oatmeal with berries and, almond butter or something along those lines. And you eat that every morning. And all of a sudden, 3 mornings out of the last month, you've stress ate it. You were not present during your meal. You're answering an emergency email, your kids, in trouble at school or whatever. And you're just inhaling it as you're driving down the interstate, in traffic, all these things, is eventually, because eating is supposed to be restorative. It's supposed to be sympathetic in nature, right? Sympathetic in nature, right? No, parasympathetic. Those two. So parasympathetic in nature. So eating is supposed to be parasympathetic in nature, right? It's supposed to be restorative. It's supposed to be something we enjoy. If we're in a sympathetic state, if we're stressed out beyond, out of our minds, and all of a sudden we're shoveling food in, your body can see that food as a threat. And then what happens is when you eat that meal consistently over and over and over again, all of a sudden, before you know it, every day at 10 a.m., you're dealing with extreme bloat, gut distension, gas, you name it. And you're sitting there, you're scratching your head and you're like, why am I so, like, I've eaten this every day for the last 8 months. And all of a sudden, well, if you think back and all of a sudden you've got like, oh yeah, that's right, 3 days last month, I was a basket case and I ate this meal and here I am and I've got all this gut issues.
I'm going to use myself as an example here. So I actually can't eat oats at the moment. So I would, for a few days, a while ago, like a few months ago, I don't even know, I didn't realize it until last month that every single time I ate oats, my fingers flared up. And I'm like, oh crap. So I cut out oats and my fingers started getting better, but they weren't completely better. So I'm like, I have so much gluten in my meal plan because I was also eating 7 slices of bread a day. So I had to cut out my bread. I'm like, I want my bread. So it's like, this is how important stress is. Like, I can't eat my oats anymore. I can't eat my Weet-Bix anymore. I was eating Weet-Bix and oats because I have a high carb. I have a lot of carbs in my day. I was eating a big bowl of Weet-Bix, I was eating like 12 bricks of wheat bix. I was eating 7 slices of bread. All of that had to get cut out because I developed this intolerance to gluten. So now I cannot eat gluten. And it was all because I don't know what it even was, because I didn't realize it until later. I must have been eating my gluten foods in a really stressed state. But I'm not feeling it now because I'm not in that, like, I'm not at that stress point now. And it must have just been like a transient time, but it can have that effect straight away. And this is why it's all about, it's like, we aren't just coaches for writing a diet plan, for training you in the gym. We're here to tell you to slow down. We're here to tell you to manage your stress, but telling people to manage their stress, telling people to fix their sleep, that isn't giving any practical advice, because we need to actually ask more questions. Like, how can we make it easier for you to foster this? And this is where it comes into routines and habits. Like, you need to create yourself a morning routine and stop feeling guilty for putting yourself first in the morning. Because yeah, okay, your kids may be crying and all of that stuff, but everyone's morning routine looks different. And it doesn't need to look like Susan's or Karen's. It needs to look like what suits you and your lifestyle. Same with your night routine. But they are the most important parts that you can ever try to consider when it comes to your progress. It goes back to what we were talking about with putting yourself first. You need to start the day and end the day with you. Otherwise, you're going to be like a friggin' rooster running around with its head levitating above its body. And I can't even imagine that. You can go ask Harry Potter about that one. But it's never in single compartments. But social media fucks this up for everyone, because there's these before and afters. Oh, look at this 12 weeks. Okay, cool. What happened after that? What happened during that? Did that person enjoy their life? Did that person suffer this, that, and the other? And just the other day, people, like, there was someone wanting to know how to lose like her muffin top in one of the groups that I'm in. And I got into this argument with this girl. Never again. Oh, just water fast for a few days every single month because it induces autophagy, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, she was like putting on this whole, you need to detox your body. You need to water fast, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, well, it worked really great for me. And it's like, but is that something that is really going to suit your lifestyle? Is that going to give you energy for your day? Is that something that suits you? And it's like she wasn't even in a place where she could say, hey, this is why I look great. It's just, as soon as someone puts something out to social media and then you see other people like backing up their asses saying, yes, 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 all of a sudden that becomes what you think you should do. And it goes the same with the whole 12-week challenges. Hey, I should do that because look at all of these amazing physiques. But then again, I guess it really depends who you fill your social media feeds with. I'm going to get you to go into this one as well, because a lot of people, I've realized, are filling their social media feeds with bikini competitors, with bodybuilding competitors, with people that are paid to live this lifestyle, people that put out swipe workouts that look like the front cover of the magazine, and then wanting to look like these guys, wanting to train like these guys, wanting to eat what these guys are apparently eating, even though it has like $300 worth of products within the full day of eatings they do their swipe across for. Like, you don't need that shit. You need real food, and to stop looking at all these other people and to like cultivate your social media feed, because your life looks nothing like theirs. And they're getting paid for that. Their life revolves around that. And these 12-week challenges you're seeing, you don't know anything about that. And was it really 12 weeks? Because there are some people that say this is 12 weeks when it was more like 24 weeks. And they just put it up there for client generation or whatever it is. It's like, you need to focus on you. But how does social media just fuck this up for everyone?
I mean, I think it's just like, you touched on it, and I think a couple takeaways for me when I think about it is, one of my most recent transformations that I posted, and it's, I've had that picture and folder forever. is one of my longest standing clients. We've been working together for 3 years, and the transformation picture was literally 6 years, 6 years apart. And I think that needs to be put into perspective of like, that's 6 years of partying some weekends. That's 6 years of having pizza, date nights, Christmases and Easters. And the transformation that I got to witness over those 3 years of this woman who once was afraid of going home for holidays, going on dates, afraid of the weekend, afraid of free time, to being a person who no longer, who feels in control, who goes into every setting with a sense of relief, knowing that she can get through her day, eat the things that she enjoys within reason, or if she's in a specific phase that we're trying to chase a specific goal, that she can say no confidently and comfortably, move on with her day, make and reach her goals. And then the next time it comes around, when maybe she's not in such a specific phase for a specific goal, that she can enjoy that thing. But again, enjoy that thing within reason. I agree with you. You have to fill your social media with, it's no different than, we hear it all the time, is you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Like, you want to be successful, surround yourself with 5 people who are doing better than you. And before you know it, you're walking around in the same circle. And it just continues to go that way in life. I think one of the biggest things that people, especially even moms, like, lie to themselves about, and I'm guilty of this too. This isn't like, this is everybody. I don't have time is horseshit. Show me your phone and show me, because now, like, your iPhone can tell me exactly the percentage of time that you spend on your phone every single week, and what the primary applications that you were using and how many hours in a week. So one of the biggest things, I think, like, it actually, I can't even remember where I found this, or where I heard it. It was probably a podcast a couple of years ago. And something that he mentioned, and it really kind of stuck with me, especially kind of from Luke's teachings of learning to create a bedtime routine, and then therefore creating a wake up time where you don't need an alarm. For the most part, every night I go to bed at about 8 p.m. and just about every morning I wake up at about 3:45 to 4:15 a.m. And majority of the time I don't need an alarm. I set one just in case, but majority of the time I'm waking up about 10 to 15 minutes before my alarm goes off in order to get up, which, I don't care what time zone you're living in or where you're living in, unless you're like in Alaska, like, the sun isn't up. There ain't no sun waking me up. One of the things that I picked up, and I believe I introduced into my life for a while and kind of obviously stepped away from the habit, is, you mentioned it earlier, and this is what kind of brought it up, is being responsive rather than like reactive, right? Like, is setting up your days for success so you're not reactive to everything, is that you're just kind of ready. You're ready for what your day has to go. And I think one of the biggest things that we can all do to be more successful at that is, whether it's an hour or 2 hours, is every morning, no phone. Like, charge your phone when you get home at night, set it on the countertop in your kitchen, and leave it there. It belongs not anywhere near you in your bedroom. Buy a $30 alarm clock, and and I don't even think they're that much. You can probably get one for cheaper. And the coolest thing is now is they make sunlight ones, right? Like, so it's not even disruptive noise. It's actually waking you up by providing ambient light. And so it's going to be a lot less disruptive on your sleep quality, as well as your stressor. So rather than waking up to you can wake up to soft sounds and a light that's waking you up. And then for the first hour, like that phone doesn't even need to come on. And same thing before bed. 1 hour before bed, that phone should be off. There's no reason. You don't need that phone on. You don't, you can set your family members and other things like for emergencies on, so they can call you no matter what, non a loud volume, you're going to hear it. Like, let's be honest, you don't need that phone right next to you. And if you're that uncomfortable with it, set it across the room. But with that being said, I think everyone could benefit from exactly that, is not being reactive. Because the second you wake up, if you turn over, you grab your phone, and all of a sudden you're scrolling through emails, you're scrolling through Instagram messages. And let's say you are a coach like myself, and all of a sudden you've got 2 clients in your ear, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're freaking out overnight or whatever. Or, you've got 1 client trying to cancel services or this or that. All of a sudden your whole day in the demographic of that day is completely changed. Rather than starting your day with you, maybe reading some daily devotionals, maybe doing a gratitude journal, or just simply going through your morning routine, like showering, brushing your teeth, having your cup of coffee, and reading 10 pages of your book in peace, not being reactive to everything that's going on in your phone. I guarantee people would start their day a lot better if they just simply stopped reacting to everything that's going on their phone, took care of themselves first, and prepared for their day, kind of mapping it out rather than waking up and being so reactive. And that, honestly, the morning starts with the night, right? The morning starts with the night is having a solid bedtime routine, making sure that you're getting ready for bed and preparing yourself for quality sleep. You're going to perform better. You're going to be able to do your job more effectively. You're going to be able to show up as a mom or a dad or a CEO or a business owner better when you just go to sleep without sleeping pills, without this, that, or the other thing, and needing 600 milligrams of caffeine to get through your day.
So something I was going to touch on with the phone thing as well is, if you're someone that uses your phone as part of your night routine, something that I harp on and on about is the do not disturb. My do not disturb goes on at 8:40 p.m. now. It goes on at 8:40 p.m. and it turns off at 11 a.m. That is a massive window. But I don't want to see a single notification on my phone or get interrupted between that time and 11 a.m. because I treasure that part of my morning as my most productive part of my morning. And that's what works for me, but it might be different for someone else. It might be, I need to set it until like 7 a.m. or whatever. And also I work out in the mornings and I don't want to be disturbed in my workout. That workout time is for me. And if you're going to constantly be reactive to everything around you, and like Garret said, if you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you have these stresses on your phone, you're going to be a shit human, quite honestly, because you're going to be moody. You're probably going to fuck up your food because you're in a stress state. Your appetite cues will be skewed up. You'll probably even feel more tired because you just wasted a shitload of energy with that adrenaline and cortisol dump from the morning. Like, this is how important it is to manage your stress, because it takes a lot of energy for that stress response to happen. Like, you get an adrenaline or cortisol dump, and like, those things are not negative, but in the wrong environment, when it should not be there and exist, it can lead to really negative circumstances that are going to pull you away from your goals. So yeah, stress does make you fat, but it doesn't make you fat directly. It's indirectly.
It's the downstream. Yeah, it's one piece of that puzzle, but it's one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle. You manage that and you would be amazed at what you can accomplish. Speaking on the do not disturb thing, my phone's on do not disturb 24/7. Like, there's a handful of people that can call me. Like, I have them set so they can call me no matter what, whether it's on do not disturb or not. And then outside of that, it is on 24/7. If you need to get a hold of me that bad, you can kindly send me a text message. You can kindly leave me a voicemail. I will get back to you on my time when I'm ready, when it's convenient for my day, because I know that I just perform better that way. Going back to the stress topic is, I've spent 6 months this year in private mentorship with my coach, who I have a great deal of respect for his knowledge. And one of the number one things that I was taking away from some of our private mentorship is, when looking at helping people with their health and wellness, is the number one thing you focus on first is cortisol. The number one thing you focus on first is the stress response. If you can fix that, a lot of this trickle, it's a big trickle down, right? You fix that, majority of the rest of the stuff tends to fix itself. Some things need a little extra push here and there, depending on the person and depending on the situation that you're dealing with. But if you can fix that, it makes a world of difference in every other avenue of life, and everything from sex hormones to other things like that.
I really want to tie this up with what you touched on as well. I'm so happy you touched on sex hormones. So it's really important to realize, like he said, once you address, not fix, because cortisol is actually a good thing at times. Once you address cortisol, make sure that it is there when you need it, and it simmers down when it's not needed. Once you address that, everything starts to, you can actually start to feel things moving along. So you might feel like you're chugging around and you're stuck at a station, and then all of a sudden you become Thomas the Tank Engine and you keep going chit chit, like like I'm trying to use these analogies so you can actually imagine this train moving along the tracks, and the tracks are faulty, and that's what happens when you're not managing all of these outer things. People don't prioritize sleep at all. People don't honor their rest periods. They think they need to be all huffy puffy. They think they need to always have their heart rate up. They think they need to always be exhausted while they're training. They think they always need to feel exhausted after a training session. They think they always need to break a sweat. They always need to be sore. Like, all of these things, once they are all addressed, once being like, let's bring this down to the basics. You want to be really consistent at the basics: stress management, sleep, all of these other things. Not once did I mention the scale weight. Not once did I mention anything to do with losing weight, because once you're consistent with all of these other things, you are in such a better place to then address the training, to actually sculpt your body, build the muscle that actually makes you look toned, because, hey, you actually have muscle to tone now, which means, like, you're building that muscle, and then you're able to, once you go into a fat loss phase, your body actually responds. It's not fighting you. So, as Garret touched on, all of this stuff impacts your sex hormones. All of this stuff impacts your estrogen. You're, like, everything. And we're going to be doing another episode touching on birth control, touching on menstrual cycles, because women have menstrual cycles, and you can be two different humans in the first half, in the second half. You can even be a third human in PMS week. Like, I just call it the three humans of the woman that happen through the menstrual cycle. We're going to be touching on all of that in the next podcast episode that we do. But this is a basis, and this is all important for then how that ties into the menstrual cycle. And then obviously the birth control aspects and all the other stuff that come with it that impact the menstrual cycle. So if you were to tie all of this up, and if you were to give this a little bow on the top, what would you tie it with?
I think the biggest thing in closing is, if you're stressed the fuck out, if you've got 9 million things on your plate and every day is just a shit show, you are not ready for a cut. Like, you're not ready to lose weight. You're not ready for that next diet. If you have no idea where your nutritional intake is, whether it be too high, too low, you're not ready for the next diet. you're not ready to lose weight. Like you need to start to track your intake so you have an understanding of where you sit so you know if and when your body's ready for a caloric deficit to lose that fat. And we, like I kind of, we've touched into to bring this all together is we need to look at it as a lifestyle change and shift and think about rather than I'm cutting for hot girl summer or I'm cutting for a wedding or the next vacation or the this or the that is let's build you a lifestyle so you can stop cutting for every event that's coming. Let's build you a lifestyle that's sustainable where you're eating more food than you ever thought possible. And then when you do decide to trim up a little bit, it's a matter of dropping maybe 200-300 calories rather than dropping off, your left arm to lose the weight that you need to lose for the next vacation or the next wedding or the next whatever. Is build that lifestyle, build it, and let's think long term. Let's think, like I said earlier in the podcast, is 24 months, 36 months, 48 months, 5 years. Where are we at in 5 years? What does your health and fitness look like? Are you still on the hamster wheel of, oh, I did this diet last month, that didn't work. Oh, I did this one. Oh, 5 years ago, I tried Atkins and man, that really got me down to this, but it wasn't sustainable because if it was, you wouldn't be on, the new fanciest form of keto. It just doesn't, obviously these things aren't working. Let's work to find healthy lifestyles long term that get us to where we want to go. And I promise it is possible. I've proven it over and over and over again.
That is such a solid way to end. Such a solid way. I'm going to put some hot takes in the captions below and put Garrett's Instagram in the caption below as well. And we will probably see you in the next few weeks to talk about more things on menstrual cycle. And thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to the next episode.
Like and share this if you found anything helpful, and see you later.